Hey everyone, StarCraft2edu here. I am Buckshot, with me is Delmaj, and this is a game sent to us by Viscura as the red Zerg over here in the right position, and his opponent will be Magikarp, the awesomest Pokemon of all time, in the bottom left as the blue Terran. Now this is a game we're casting as sort of a follow-up to the game we just casted. If you go back and watch our last game, you'll notice that we talk a lot about early aggression as Terran versus Zerg and how effective it can be, and not really drawing out the longer macro games. So we're going to see a little bit of that in this game. But as of right now, we have pretty standard openers. We have our Terran player blocking off here, and our Zerg player droning up, probably going for either a 4, obviously not going for a 10 pool. So it looks like he's actually going to go for a 14 hatchery.
So one of the other things we're going to be touching on in this game is the flip side of the early aggression for Terran, is that if you're playing as a Zerg player, you need to get your defenses going. You can't just expand and drone up and not build units. In StarCraft, you always need to be building units because you never know what your opponent's going to be doing. Even if you scout them, you can't always see into their base. So as you can see, our red Zerg player here is scouting, and he's doing a little drone harass here. This is always a good idea. If Magikarp wouldn't have pulled that SCV out, Viscura could have gotten a free kill here and stopped the production of that barracks, which would slow down the Terran player a decent amount. So it's always good to try and get that harassment off. So now you can see he's just running around, he's just scouting everything out, and Magikarp has done the exact same. He sees the early expand here. No really harassment on trying to stop the drone from placing down that expansion, but that's something more that you see in the pro level games. Not too easy to do, so you don't really see it down at the lower levels.
Now, if you notice, as a Zerg player, you typically want to scout a little early, because then that determines your build order. You'll notice our two players are spawning in what we call cross position, or not cross positions, close by ground positions. You'll notice that the rush distance is very short. Right here is the natural, and as a Zerg player, if you spawn in close by ground positions, you will probably actually want to go spawning pool first to be able to get some Zerglings out and some spine crawlers and a queen to really hold off or at least discourage early aggression by Terran. But with a fast expand, our Terran player will really be able to attack as soon as he wants, and as you'll see, it's very important that although it's not impossible to do a fast expand at close by ground, it is safer to do a spawning pool first. And another thing we're going to look at this game is not that, but the harvester count. Because with Zerg, you do want to have a drone advantage, but you need to learn the balancing act of drones and attacking units, of when to build what. And so you can see our Terran player here is throwing down the very traditional Terran 3 barracks and starting to produce his infantry.
So one of the reasons the Terran player decided to throw down those 3 racks is because of the Zerg gas steal here. But the Terran player could have just started with a Destiny Codfish or a 1-1-1 build where he gets his factory first. That build actually only starts on 1 gas, so you don't need both gas right away to start that build off. So the gas steal wasn't really needed or didn't really do anything against the Terran player there. So that's one of the things I learned throughout playing Zerg. I always thought I was being clever when I'd steal gas because it only cost me 25 minerals, stops their gas production, or so I thought. But at the beginning of the game, you don't really need that second geyser right away, so you haven't really done anything unless you send in 2 drones and steal both gases, and that's going to be pretty hard to do because most players get their first gas going pretty early. So as you can see, we have 2 queens out. No inject larva on the way though. You need to get that inject larva going so you can try and get some production going. Instead, he opts to get 3 new creep tumors. Not very necessary. Even if you're going for a lot of creep spread, you're still going to want that inject larva to start off. So now we have 5 queens out, 4 queens out. So this is basically his defense. He's got 1 spine crawler and 4 queens, and he's trying to use that for his entire defense.
Now you'll notice our Zerg player only building drones right now, while our Terran player is making Marines, Marauders, and researching STEM, just constantly making drones. At this stage in the game, although creep spread is very good, Probably at this stage, you only need one queen because creep tumors keep making themselves. So with one queen adding on creep tumors, you don't really need a second queen to spread creep, especially at especially at close by ground positions, because you know where they're coming from. You'll notice that there are still no units on the field right now for our Zerg player. He has, let's see, he's got 27 harvesters and 38 supply. The rest of that supply is being taken up mainly by these queens. So there is nothing really happening, and he instead of he does have a scouting Zergling here ready to see when they're going to push out. So that's what you want to do. You want to know when they're pushing out when you're taking the gamble. Instead, making 2 more queens and 6 more drones. He has 1,000 minerals at 8 minutes in the game. If you have 1,000 minerals at 8 minutes in the game, you are definitely doing something wrong. Because look, here comes the Terran early push. He has 1,000 minerals, 900, and he has 0 units. No Zerglings. He has 1 spine crawler. He should have made, if he's going for this style of play, probably at least 10 or probably not 10, but a lot of spine crawlers. Going for an all-queen transfusion defense, but against stimmed up Marines and Marauders, it's a GG. It's no question. He has 1,000 minerals at 8 minutes in the game. You need to make units. You can't just make queens and 1 spine crawler. You need Zerglings, Banelings, 3 to 4 spine crawlers if you're going for a heavy drone start, especially as close by ground.
So in our last video that we just casted, we talked a lot about how the Terran player had the early advantage and failed to use it, and he still ended up winning the game, but it came down to a very big macro battle, and it wasn't very clear in the middle point of the game who was going to win. It looked like it was going back and forth a lot, but the Terran player had the advantage in the early game and he didn't use it. He didn't send his infantry out to try and do some early pressure. This game is the exact opposite. The Terran player builds up a nice small little bio ball here, a couple Marines, couple Marauders, pretty good ratio here. He has the early stim, and the Zerg player had no defense for it. Not even, he had 1 spine crawler and 4 queens, and that's it, and that's not going to stand up to this. Now what might have stood up to it is a couple more spine crawlers, or if the Zerg player would have maybe waited, if he would have held off on that second base a little bit and maybe gone for a little bit of 1 base Baneling play, he could have had a couple Banelings out. You wrap the Zerglings, any Zerglings you have, you get behind the army. You have to try and attack on 2 fronts. You get the Zerglings behind the army, then you roll the Banelings in front, you get a sandwich going, and the Marines and the Marauders can't run away because the Zerglings are back there acting like a net. They catch all the infantry, the Banelings run in, everything explodes, and the Zerg player is fine, and the Terran player has done 0 damage while losing his entire army.
I think this seems like a pretty obvious thing that you need to build units and not just harvesters the whole game, but you'd be surprised that I think that there's a lot of Zerg players out there who watch too many pro games, and the professional Zerg players, they know when they need to build drones, and they know when they need to build attacking units, because they have a very good game sense, they've been playing long enough, and they know when pushes will become. This is an 8-minute push, a pretty standard with an early stim. As Zerg, you need to learn the balancing act of making drones and making attacking units, and as you can see, this was very favored in drones, and you can see how early of a good game this was. So, this has been StarCraft 2 EDU. Send us your replays, and we will cast them. Thanks.
Thanks.